Hi, my name is Brandon, and welcome to Blood on Our Hands, or BOOH for short. It's a series where we dissect and analyze the many aspects of horror, sometimes specific franchises and titles, and then talk about our thoughts on it and give it criticism. In our pilot episode, we'll be starting a section of the show called The Problem with Modern Horror, where we analyze the biggest cliches and tropes in the genre. We'll be discussing the history of them, when they peaked, and why I personally dislike them. We'll also be talking about how they can be effective despite having bad reputations. Keep in mind that a lot of what's said here is my opinion, and that this is just a more fun, informative video to encourage discussion. Now that we've gotten the opening statements out of the way, let's dig into the first problem with modern horror, the jump scare. If we're going to dissect cliches, we might as well start with the biggest one when it comes to the genre. Jump scares are defined as a technique often used in horror films and video games intended to scare the audience by surprising them with an abrupt change in image or event, usually co-occurring with a loud and frightening sound. The first notable recorded jump scare comes from the 1942 film Cat People, written by DeWitt Bodine and directed by Jacques Tourneur, in what's known as the loot and bust scene. It features the main character, Simone, walking down a seemingly empty street at night. Looking tense, she continues to walk for a bit before stopping at a streetlight, where moments later, a bus screeches to a stop in front of her. Following this, there would be an 18-year gap until the next notable jump scare in film, which would take place in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. While there were some major films with jump scares in them during the 60s and 70s, such as The Exorcist, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Jaws, Carrie, and Halloween, they wouldn't rise to mainstream popularity until the 80s when slasher films became all the rage. Several major franchises would be born then. Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and The Evil Dead come to mind, all of which had a fair amount of jump scares for the time. Halloween, while debuting in 1978, would also continue into this decade. The average number of jump scares in horror movies during the 80s would hover at around 9.5 per film and drop to 7.9 in the 90s. From there, the average would slowly rise again until 2015 and into the present, where the current average amount of jump scares per horror movie sits at 10.2, the highest it's ever been. Reviews for many, although not all, newer horror films, particularly ones with a lot of jump scares, are anywhere from mixed to negative, yet their popularity is overwhelming. There's a few ways you could answer this, but the big one is as obvious as it gets. They sell. You don't need me to tell you that, but for a better perspective, let's look at just how well they sell. Let's take a look at the budgets, box office sales, and return on investment for 3 films in the last few years that have a notable amount of jump scares. For those that don't know, return on investment is a measure for how efficient an investment is on an entity. In this case, we're looking at how efficient investing in a horror film with a lot of jump scares is. 2018's The Nun had a recorded 22 jump scares with a budget of $22 million US. The box office returns were $364.8 million US, leaving us with a return on investment of 1,558%. 2017's Annabelle Creation had 23 jump scares recorded, with a budget of $15 million US. The box office returns ultimately ended up being $306.5 million US, which gives us a return on investment of a whopping 1,943%. 2017's It had a recorded 23 jump scares, similar to Annabelle Creation, but with a budget of $35 million US. Its box office was $700.4 million US, giving us a return on investment of 1,901%. This shows that the investment that's given nets insane profits, and when the profits are this good, you may as well keep going with it. Now that we've discussed the history of the jump scare, the average amount per film over the years, and the amount of profit films with them make, I'll be weighing in on why I think jump scares are a problem in modern horror. Keep in mind that this next bit is just my opinion, and that is not necessarily true all the time. For starters, jump scares are really only effective for the instance they're used in. They don't stick after the initial scene, and repeated viewings don't really make you dread that moment. There's not much context to them afterwards too that make them lasting or impressive, and they usually don't age well either. Jump scares are also used in abundance, which is evident given the averages that we pointed out earlier in the video. This, combined with a lack of effort and also build-up, can lead to negative or mixed reactions from audiences. Despite this and my own personal complaints towards jump scares, they can actually be very effective and, if done right, can leave a lasting impression on many people. Part of what I think makes jump scares so tiresome to the modern viewer is that a lot of them play out in a similar fashion, and also try to pack as much of a punch, both visually and auditorily, as possible, instead of focusing on just a few aspects to really fine-tune and give a good surprise to the viewer. Jump scares are a problem. Not because they're bad, but because they're not used as effectively as they could be. I'd personally love to see more of these overly jumpy movies give a bit more thought and care to their jump scares. It could give them better ratings, but at the very least it would be more interesting for the viewer than what we're currently given with all of these popular, but not well received films. That's all from me on this video. If you guys liked it, feel free to hit the like button, and if you want to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments what you think, and with that, I'll see you next time, when we get a little bit more blood on our hands.